If you've ever looked closely in the mirror and noticed tiny dark dots on your nose or chin, you're not alone. Blackheads are one of the most common skin concerns in the world. Almost everyone experiences them at some point, whether during the teenage years or even well into adulthood. They're small, stubborn, and somehow always seem to show up exactly where you don't want them. But despite how common they are, blackheads are also widely misunderstood. Many people think they're just dirt trapped in the skin. Others believe they appear because someone didn't wash their face enough. In reality, blackheads are a lot more interesting and a bit more complex than that. So today we're taking a closer look at what blackheads really are, how they form, why they look black, and how people have dealt with them throughout history, right here on History of Simple Things. People have been concerned about skin imperfections for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations placed a surprising amount of importance on clear skin, and early skincare routines were already being practiced long before modern dermatology existed. In ancient Egypt, for example, people used natural oils, clay, and mineral powders to cleanse and protect their skin. Historical records suggest that Egyptians used substances like honey, milk, and plant extracts to keep their skin smooth. These early remedies were often meant to treat clogged pores, even if people didn't fully understand the science behind them. The ancient Greeks and Romans also valued skin care. They used exfoliating mixtures made from sand, pumice, or ground minerals to scrub the skin. While they didn't specifically call them blackheads, these treatments were aimed at removing impurities from the pores. It wasn't until the 19th and early 20th centuries that scientists began studying skin conditions more seriously. Dermatologists eventually identified blackheads as a form of acne called open comedones. This scientific understanding helped explain why they form and why they're so common, especially during periods of hormonal change. At its core, a blackhead is a clogged pore. Your skin is covered with tiny openings called pores, and each pore contains a hair follicle and a sebaceous gland. These glands produce an oily substance known as sebum, which helps keep your skin moisturized and protected. Normally, sebum travels up the pore and spreads across the surface of your skin. But sometimes things don't go as smoothly as planned. Dead skin cells, excess oil, and tiny hair fragments can collect inside the pore, forming a small plug. When that plug stays open at the surface, it becomes a blackhead. This is why dermatologists refer to blackheads as open comedones. The pore isn't sealed off. It's still exposed to the air. One of the biggest misconceptions about blackheads is that the dark color comes from dirt. That's actually not true. The black color appears because of a chemical reaction called oxidation. When the mixture of oil and dead skin cells inside the pore is exposed to air, it reacts with oxygen. This reaction causes the material to darken, much like how a sliced apple turns brown when left out. So the dark tip you see isn't dirt, it's simply oxidized oil and skin cells. Interestingly, the rest of the clogged material deeper inside the pore usually remains lighter in color. Only the surface part turns dark because that's the portion exposed to oxygen. Blackheads form for several different reasons, and usually it's a combination of factors rather than just one cause. One major factor is excess oil production. Some people naturally produce more sebum than others, especially during adolescence when hormones are changing rapidly. This extra oil makes it easier for pores to become clogged. Another factor is the buildup of dead skin cells. Your skin constantly sheds old cells and replaces them with new ones. But if those dead cells don't shed properly, they can stick together with oil and block the pore. Hormones also play a big role. During puberty, pregnancy, or even periods of stress, hormone levels can increase oil production. This is why blackheads are especially common during the teenage years. Environmental factors can contribute as well. Heavy cosmetics, oily skincare products, sweat, and pollution can all make clogged pores more likely. Blackheads can technically appear anywhere on the body, but they're most common in areas with the highest concentration of oil glands. The nose is one of the most frequent locations. The skin here produces a lot of sebum, which makes clogged pores more likely. The chin and forehead are also common areas, forming what dermatologists call the T-zone. But blackheads aren't limited to the face. They can also show up on the back, chest, shoulders, and neck, where oil glands are also active. Sometimes, what people think are blackheads may actually be something else, like sebaceous filaments, natural structures that help move oil through the pores. These look similar, but are completely normal and not actually clogged pores. Blackheads are just one type of acne lesion. The key difference between blackheads and other pimples is that the pore remains open. If the clogged pore closes over, it becomes a whitehead, also known as a closed comedone. Because the material inside isn't exposed to air, it stays white or flesh-colored instead of turning dark. Other types of acne, like papules, pustules, and cysts, involve inflammation and sometimes bacterial growth. Blackheads, on the other hand, usually aren't inflamed. They tend to stay small and relatively painless. That's why they're often considered one of the milder forms of acne, even though they can still be frustrating. While it's impossible to completely prevent blackheads, there are ways to reduce how often they appear. Keeping the skin clean helps remove excess oil and dead skin cells before they build up inside pores. Gentle exfoliation can also help clear away the surface layer of dead cells that contribute to clogging. Some skincare ingredients are especially helpful for preventing blackheads. Salicylic acid, for example, can penetrate into pores and break down the oil inside them. Retinoids help speed up skin cell turnover, reducing the chance of clogged pores forming in the first place. However, squeezing blackheads too aggressively can damage the skin and even make the pore appear larger over time. That's why dermatologists often recommend professional extraction or gentle treatments instead. Blackheads might be small, but they reveal a lot about how our skin works. What looks like a simple dark dot is actually the result of oil production, dead skin cells, and a natural chemical reaction with oxygen. Far from being a sign of poor hygiene, blackheads are simply a normal part of how human skin behaves. They've existed for as long as people have had pores, and humans have been trying to manage them for thousands of years. Understanding what they really are helps remove some of the mystery. The next time you spot one in the mirror, you'll know it's not just dirt. It's a tiny glimpse into the surprisingly complex world happening right on the surface of your skin. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.